Hey, what's happening, world? I am your man, Ray Sr., and this is In Case You Missed It. All right, man, last week I was talking about J. Cole's new album and how it didn't really meet my expectations. Well, J. Cole fans have spoken. Let's take a look at some of his sales we've got here. All right, so his first week streams were estimated at 325 million. So that means, yeah, people are feeling his album, man, regardless of what I think. All right, then we got another stat called album equivalent units earned, right? Not exactly sure what that means or where it came from. Honestly, I think somebody just kind of made that up, trying to figure out how they can make streams equal to album sales, but those are two totally different things. You know what I mean? It takes a lot more for a person to pull out $15 or whatever CDs used to cost, opposed to just click and play on your free streaming service like Spotify or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. It is what it is. All right, but those album equivalent units earned were up to 282,000. So they're saying that he would have sold 282,000 units or CDs or whatever. That's the equivalent to the streams. I'm not buying that though. Like I said, it takes a lot more for somebody to pull money out of their pocket than to click play just to kind of check things out of curiosity, right? So a lot of J. Cole people or a lot of people who listen to his album may not necessarily have been fans, but they're just like, well, let me just see what all the hype's about and click play and just kind of listen through. You know what I mean? Whereas if you were to buy a unit, you'd have to go to the store, which costs you gas money, your time. You'd have to make that special trip. You'd get in there, you'd pay $15 and then whatever tax was, you know what I mean? So you spending, anywhere from $15 to $20 after everything's said and done to buy that album. And that's what a real fan does, right? Not just somebody who was intrigued. And in more hip hop news, we've got the Joe Budden Podcast. All right. So I'm not sure if y'all are all familiar out there. Joe Budden is this older rapper from back in the day, and then he started a podcast. You know what I mean? So, a lot of people aren't really familiar with his music. You know what I mean? He was never one of those big artists or whatever, but he did make a name in the podcast world. You know, kind of a opinionated dude, gets a little loud sometimes, you know what I mean? So you may or may not like that. But I would definitely say at least check him out so you can kind of see what they're talking about. All right, so on the Joe Budden podcast, I'm not a faithful listener. I have seen, a fair share of my episodes. The three guys that are on it is Joe Budden. I think he's the main guy. And then you got this dude named Rory. If you watch the show, he's a white dude. And then you've got this other dude named Maul, who, when I would watch the show, he was always kind of quiet, right? And he's this other black dude, right? Kind of dark skinned guy. So you'll see Joe Budden's going to be the lighter skinned dude. So anyway, just to kind of sum up and get you caught up, they've always seemed to have a decent relationship. Joe Budden kind of just talks shit, and they're just like, yeah, whatever kind of thing. But I guess something must have happened because all of a sudden now they all got beef, right? I think Rory and Maul get along, but Joe Budden, you may have seen, in some of the news that Joe Budden fired these boys on air. So I went and listened to that episode. I didn't see it, but I listened to the episode, the little clip when he fired them. I'm not sure why Joe Budden fired these guys, what kind of beef they had going on there. But when you listen to the show, you're kind of thinking like, man, it's messed up, man. You didn't have to, fire these boys on air. And I guess he had been talking a bunch of crap about them, you know what I mean? But I did watch the rebuttal of Rory and Maul kind of saying what they called the truth, right, of everything that happened, right? So it's basically their side. What happened is what it sounds like they're saying is it's all about money, right? First of all, they weren't employees of Joe Budden, so he couldn't fire them, right? They were, I guess, some type of partners, and they got certain percentages of whatever the podcast would make, right? So you're not their boss, you know what I'm saying? You're more their partner, you know what I mean? So he didn't have the right to do that, I guess, is what they're saying. And they said they would never have any issues until they would ask to see the books, right? And so their argument is because we get a percentage of what this makes, we want to see what the show is making so we can see what our percentage is. And they would never really send them the accounting stuff, so they can see what was going on with the money. And so then Joe Budden was taking offense, you know what I mean? As if, I guess he was taking it as they were, he was trying to cheat them. Anyway, it's this whole thing, man. So y'all go check that out to get caught up. It just sounds kind of sketchy. And the thing is money always comes into play. I feel like y'all, people out there, if y'all are doing business and you're an indie artist, when you guys start making some money or you're spending large amounts of money, I think everyone should get a contract. You know what I mean? Even if you guys are friends, I think the friendship will be saved by contracts, right? Because it's like, it's not all of a sudden we're changing. It's like, hey, we're all getting equal parts or whatever their percentage was on that particular podcast or whatever. You guys figure it out and then just be done with it. All agree on it. And then, you guys can go on, just focus on making music or podcasts or whatever it is you guys are doing. So my 2 cents anyway. And then we move on to some R&B news. So you've got a singer called Tank. He's an older R&B artist. He's been around for a while, man. Really talented dude. He just revealed on his Instagram that he is going deaf in one of his ears, and in the other ear, it's deteriorating. You know what I mean? And like that kind of sucks because as a musician, that's your lifeline. You know what I mean? So, if you pray and do all that thing, send him your prayers. Go check him out on Instagram. His name is Tank. All right, and so in the fall of 2021. ABC's putting out a remake of a show called The Wonder Years. Now, for those that don't know, Wonder Years was an old TV series. I guess it was mid-'80s it came out, and it was starring this kid, Fred Savage, and basically there was a guy narrating, but Fred Savage was this kid, and he was kind of telling his life story, throughout his lifetime. And so the remake is going to take place in Alabama in the 1960s. It's going to be, the characters are all black. Don Cheadle is going to be the voiceover narrating his life story, and I'm not really sure who the kid is. But it's going to be, the producers are a guy named Celadon Patterson. I'm not sure if I'm butchering that or pronouncing it right. And then you've got Fred Savage as an executive producer, and then you've got Lee Daniels as another executive producer. All right. And so Fred Savage, again, was the kid playing in The Wonder Years. And then Lee Daniels, he was a director for Precious, and he was the executive producer for some other films. Now, for those that have not seen it, The Wonder Years was a great show for its time. You know what I mean? So this is kind of one of those shows to where, I don't know, man, you may want to stay away from that. You know what I'm saying? That's like them trying to remake Ferris Bueller's Day Off or some of these classic films that everyone just needs to let be. All right, some sports news. Let's talk about boxing real quick. We've got Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder are going to fight for the 3rd time, right? So Tyson Fury was supposed to fight this guy, Anthony Joshua. They're both heavyweight champions. In Saudi Arabia. It was supposed to be a big payday for everyone, but there was something in Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury's contract, right? And so the first fight, Deontay Wilder beat up on Tyson Fury, knocked him down. He made this crazy, Tyson Fury just sat up. It was kind of crazy, right? Then the second fight, Tyson Fury came back, beat the hell out of Deontay Fury, man. I mean, busted him all the way up, man, from head to toe. You know what I mean? And then, they ended up stopping the fight because it was looking brutal. And then there was a clause about this 3rd fight, apparently. So anyway, Tyson Fury says he's going to fight this guy July 24th, right? And so I'm sure Anthony Joshua is like, man, what's up? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's supposed to be a huge payday. And so apparently, I guess, the boxing committee is saying that Anthony Joshua needs to fight this guy Usyk. It's a mandatory fight. So I'm assuming that'll happen. All right. And then to follow up, to make the summer even better, we've got Manny Pacquiao versus Errol Spence Jr. Now, this is going to be a pretty good fight, man. The only downfall is that, for those that don't know, Pacquiao is probably going to go down in history as one of the greatest of all time. But he's 42 now. And so in his last fight, he did beat Keith Thurman. His conditioning was really good, and he looked really good. But I don't know, man. Errol Spence, I think, is a different beast. All right. And so that's going to happen August 21st, I believe. I personally think Errol Spence is going to beat up on him. Errol Spence is 31, and he's in his prime right now. The only downside is he's coming off of a car accident that he had before his last fight, his little tune-up fight, and he looked okay. You know what I mean? But when you're in there with Pacquiao, it's going to be a different show. All right, and up next we've got an artist interview with hip hop and R&B artist Anastasia Hera. All right, y'all. In case you missed it, we've got Anastasia Hera with us tonight. How you doing, girl?
I'm doing well. It's a beautiful time of year. We're getting lots of rain, it's setting all these moods, and got me in the mind space to create. So I really can't complain.
All right. So real quick before we get started, just tell us a little bit about yourself, like where you're from, how you got your stage name, and all that.
Okay, so I'm Anastasia Hera. I'm a rap artist, vocalist, singer, songwriter from Austin, Texas. Been here most of my life. And how I got started with music is just falling in love with music the same way a lot of us did. Listening to the radio, going to church, going to parties, going to the clubs. And I think what really pushed me to pursue it was really just studying what goes into the creation of a song, the structure, the harmonies, the lyrics. And I found that it was a talent that came naturally to me, rhyming words, putting them together, and just being able to paint a picture. So I feel like I've been a writer, a rapper, a musician all my life.
So you don't have any family background, or you didn't play any instruments in high school or anything like that?
I did learn piano as a child.
Mm.
I played with the choir at my 8th grade graduation. But I'm the only one though, really, with that kind of musical background. I'm the only one in my immediate family that I know of, as far back as I've been told, that has actually pursued music as a career, as a craft. So in that way, I'm a trailblazer in my own family.
So who are some of your musical influences, that got you going with music, and, people you really just vibing with?
Right. So my musical influences are pretty varied. There's a wide range, and I try to pick up something from every artist that I encounter and that I listen to. But when I look like at the heart of it, what makes me want to rap, what inspires me to be a better lyricist, to me, you can't get any better than Jay-Z. The way he flips his words, the way he flips his ideas, and just follows themes is just something that I aspire to as an artist in my own craft. And then when it comes to just the feel good element of a song, setting the mood, setting the vibe, I always go back to Bob Marley because, he marries these elements of, the instrumentation, the language, which, being from Texas in the South, we have our own little way of speaking as well, that maybe not everybody can understand, but we can make it relatable. So like things like that make the music timeless and legendary. And artists like those are the ones that I really look up to.
Yeah, man. Bob Marley's definitely got a vibe about itself, man. So,
Absolutely.
all right. So, how would you describe the music that you make?
The music that I make definitely is unique. The type of person that I am a rap artist who loves to sing. So I'm constantly skating this line between rapping and singing. And, I feel like I can rap better than a lot of the singers, and I can feel like I can sing better than a lot of the rappers. So I try to use that to my advantage. I don't think you can put it in a box. I don't think you can pigeonhole it into one genre. It's going to surpass, it's going to reach out over all the genres. So the way the music that I make is, I would say it's melodic trap. The latest music is definitely melodic trap, but with a fresh approach to it. It's, the ideas are big. The ideas are global. We're talking about empowerment. We're talking about, self-care. We're talking about all those things. So I think I bring a fresh approach to it.
Yeah, and so one of the things, I was hesitant when I was trying to introduce you. I was like, do I call her a rapper? Do I call her a singer? About 2 years ago, I think, maybe even longer than that, I heard I heard some of your music, and I heard you doing like rapping and singing both, kind of like you had like that Lauryn Hill style, you know what I mean? And
Right.
so you did well at both, but I was like, so which one do you kind of go by? Do you consider yourself more of a rapper or more of a singer? Or
I'm a rapper who loves to sing. I love to sing. I'm usually all day, every day. People when they ride with me in the car, they usually have to tell me to just knock it off and shut up because I never stop. But I consider myself a rap artist because that's my first love is lyricism, taking words, flipping them around, rhyming them to paint a picture, to evoke an emotion. So I'm a rap artist, but I'm also a vocalist because I love the aspect of harmonies and vocal production. And to me, it's just the icing on the cake. Anybody can rhyme words together. They've got apps and computer programs that do that. But I think it takes a little bit more of a human touch, and it takes a little bit more of an artist to add that element of melody, to add the catchiness, to add the relatability that makes people want to listen and listen again.
Yeah, I think all the greats, they're able to evoke that emotion, and I think that's the key with a lot of music. You know what I mean? You could be like the dopest lyricist of all time. You can be somebody that may not be, you know what I'm saying, lyrically inclined, if you will. You know what I mean?
Right.
But if you bring that energy and people feel you and you bring something out of them, man, I think that's the key, man. So you
Oh,
definitely,
absolutely.
yeah. All right, so someone who's new to you may be scrolling through your YouTube and you may see some other videos with you performing with a live band, which personally
Right.
I think is great. But then when they listen to the new album, it's a little bit, it's a different vibe. You know what I mean? Now, I know you can do both, but for someone
Mhm.
out there who's coming across you, like, you know, why did you decide to go that route with the trap beats and stuff like that?
Right. Well, trap will always have a special place in my heart. And you can say it's overdone and overused, and it's everywhere now. Commercials. I'm like, what is that beat? It's just the most random. It's arthritis medication, whatever it is. But there are certain elements like the 808s and the hi hats and just the way those beats make me feel. Always make me want to get up and move around, do something. There's an energy to it. Um, and so that, and I've been working on these songs. Ty on the track produced the entire project. He kind of opened up his catalog to me a few years ago and said, well, hey, whatever you hear, whatever you're vibing to, just write to it and let's see where it goes. So I'm definitely thankful for that. But it's just that's the music that speaks to me and that appeals to me as a person. Now, as far as the live band, we live in Austin, live music capital of the world, and having a band behind you, having musicians and instrumentalists, that's just the language that you have to speak to get noticed, to get booked, to get it, to get your foot in the door at these venues. And so that's a necessary element. And that's another aspect of the artistry that I love. I love that connection, the flow of energy back and forth between me and the musicians, and then us and the audience. Like it's a divine thing. So it all adds up. It all adds up to the bigger picture. And my band is talented enough to take those trap tracks and those trap elements and interpret them for the live stage. So I feel like I got the best of both worlds at this point.
I went to a Jay-Z show years ago when he was in Austin, and J. Cole was actually the opener for the dude. And little quick story, J.
Right.
Cole was like, hey, man, I was in LA a couple nights ago. I appreciate y'all coming out because in LA nobody was there. You know what I'm saying? Because
Wow.
he was the opener. This is when like before he got on. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so we went to the Jay-Z concert, and Jay-Z actually had two drum kits there, one on the left, one on the right, and he had a live band. He also had a DJ, and then of course they got the crazy lighting and all that. We were
Yes.
at the Irwin Center, so yeah, man, I think everybody should have a live band. Back in the day when I was going to a lot of local shows, you could tell the difference. You go up there and somebody just rapping on a mic, and it's cool, but it's like one person you're looking at. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I would always perform with a live band as well, DJ, that whole kind of thing. So, all right. So when I was looking up some information about you, I saw that you had a deal going with Sony Orchard, and so tell us a little bit about that. Are they? I remember when they first came out a few years ago. I couldn't tell if they were a record label, distribution company, marketing firm. Tell us a little bit about how you're interacting with those guys.
Right. So I recently signed a distribution deal with Sony Orchard, and to my knowledge, this is my first experience with them, and so far it's been great. I can't wait to see the full extent of what they're able to do for me. But what happens with the distribution deal is that I'm able to use Sony's network, their infrastructure that they've built over the years. their method of getting into online stores, streaming stores, FM radio, visual platforms on Roku. Like I have access to all those things. So instead of me now releasing music, to my friends and my social network, I'm now able to hand it over to Sony Orchard, and they do the legwork. They put my music in the right places to be heard and seen by new eyes and new ears. And so this project that's coming out tomorrow, this is Anastasia, will be my first project released with them, and I can't wait to see what they do with it.
Nice, man. It's good to have that kind of muscle behind you. I mean, we can only do so much as the artists and producers and stuff. Like we have the talent, but it's like, hey, man, we just need a little bit of help to help propel that stuff out there, man, and get it to the right people. So good deal.
Absolutely. I feel like it's my job to come with it as far as the music, be the best artist I can be. Now I've got somebody to hand it over to that knows what to do with it. So I can't wait to see what happens.
Yeah, I think you're gonna shine, man. I told somebody recently, like, the first time I saw you out there, it was one of my ex students, I think, did a video, like a cipher or something, with you rapping, and I think I heard you before then as well singing, and I was like, okay, man, she got something, you know what I'm saying? And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm glad to see that, like, you getting what you deserve, man. People behind you, and I hope you go all the way to the top, girl.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. All right. So I know out here on the local scene, a lot of people have this crabs in a barrel bucket. You know what I mean? Like we're gonna start seeing you shine, especially with the males on the local scene. It's like everybody hating on each other. They trying to compete. Do you find that amongst the female artists, is there that same, I don't want to call it animosity, but that same like jealousy, I guess, when somebody starts shining a little bit more?
It's weird. And, I've said this a few times over the years, but being a woman in the scene, being a female rapper has exempted me from sort of that male, machismo competition. I'm better than you. When we're out in the clubs, they have to pose and posture and stand over here and look hard. Like I never had to do any of that. I never had to fit into those boxes because I'm a woman. I'm on the outside already. I think that if there's any competition that exists between female artists, female rappers specifically, it usually comes from the outside. Even on the mainstream, on the big stage, there's this weird feeling that there can only be one woman at a time, getting the shine. This one knocks that one off her throne, and then the next one comes up. But when you get us all into a room together, and I've had this experience with female artists in Austin, putting them together. I had an organization called Cake, where we all come together and make music and present opportunities to other women and girls who are interested, but maybe don't know how to go about it or don't have the infrastructure in place. But once you get us all in a room, I find that we encourage each other. We want to learn from each other. We want to share. We want to teach. So those negative aspects and those negative influences are usually from other people on the outside. But us being artists, and truly artists at heart, like it's our desire to grow, to get better, to learn from one another. So that's been my personal experience. I don't feel any animosity. I feel like there's enough room in the sun for all of us to shine. I feel like all of us female rappers have our own lane. I can't do what she does, and she probably can't do what I do. And that's a beautiful thing. We all bring something to the table.
Right. I've always said I believe there's strength in numbers. One of the analogies I use all the time with my students and stuff, or just when I'm out talking to people, is like if there's one person pushing a boulder up the hill, like that person may never get up the hill pushing a big boulder, right? But if you got your whole squad or a bunch of people behind you all pushing in the same direction, you guys will all get to the top together, man. So I don't know. I just feel like we all need to come together and use our strengths. Like if you are a person who does marketing, you know what I mean? Or if you're a producer and you're a rapper or a singer, like everybody get together, man, and just, I don't know, man, use your talents and let's get to the top. Then when you get to the top, you know what I'm saying? If you want to be the king.
Oh, yeah. Then it's every man for himself. We pooled our resources. You had this connect on this side. I had this connect on that side. We gotten somewhere. Mm-hmm. Oh, and now it's a friendly competition. Just in the spirit of brotherly love, I'm going to tear you up on this next track. You know what I mean? So I think it can work like that. And I think that artists like us who have a few more years and are a little more seasoned, should be the example for things like that. We should be leading the way.
Mm-hmm.
We should be showing the younger artists or the new ones to the game, how to relate with each other, how to talk with each other, how to barter, all in the spirit of progress.
Right. No, I agree. All right. So, what's your creative process like when you're writing your songs? Like, do you need to be isolated by yourself? Do you need to be in a studio? Do you like writing partners? Have you ever had writing partners?
So I'm one of these people, I'm unapologetic about this. I like to be alone on my own territory, in my own room situation, in my own element, behind closed doors, maybe 2 or 3 closed doors. Sometimes I go in my closet, just because, there's this element of safety, you know what I mean? Of not being judged and, not wanting to present your ideas too early before they've had a chance to really take shape and before they're actually really good. I have, though, I would just say earlier this year, I started out wanting to branch out and wanting to get better about writing with others, because I feel like that's another aspect that's important. When you're navigating around the industry, you might not always have the opportunity to take a track home and vibe with it and do whatever you need to do. Sometimes people are going to say, well, hey, we want this work done on the spot. And, as an artist, it's your job to be able to adjust and do that. So I have started out this year writing around people, being comfortable in the room with people, creating and not feeling judged. Just like my ideas need time to take shape, other people are the same way as well. So a lot of that was just me being hard on myself. Now that I've kind of eased up and realized that, hey, I'm going to stumble, I'm going to make mistakes, I'm going to, say things that don't make sense and want to go back and change them. But that's just part of being human. And that's how we explore. And that's how we come up with our best ideas. It's just by putting them out there and then fixing, refining, reshaping until they make sense.
Right. I think all artists, I was an artist for a long time back in the day. I currently do most of the production, mix and master, and that kind of thing. And I write songs with people.
Yeah.
And just through my experience, most artists are like have this insecurity, right? Like,
Right.
especially when you first start working with them, like they may not want to sing all the way out, or they may think the
Right.
line is corny, and it's just like, and then us as producers, luckily I have a little bit of experience, but you still have your own insecurities. Like, am I doing a good job doing this? And when I say a producer, I mean the traditional sense, not a lot of people say producer and they're like beat makers, which is cool. There's nothing wrong
Right.
with that. There's
Yeah.
it's just a different job, but being a real producer, like I find myself having to pull the best out of these artists, and sometimes the conversation is, I got to tread lightly. You don't want to discourage someone and being like, oh, that line's trash. You know what I mean? You just
Yeah.
gotta, I don't know, gotta kind of be sensitive to these artists.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah, and definitely, because a lot of us, our art is so personal to us, now we're taking our innermost thoughts and feelings and now we're saying them out loud for the
Hmm.
world to hear and, for people to comment on and judge and say, hey, well, can you try that again? Can we do better? Can we fix,
Hmm.
you know what I mean? And it can take a while to get to the point where you're able to be thankful for that constructive criticism
Hmm.
and use it to improve the idea. So you can't improve that without working on it,
Hmm.
without sitting in a room with somebody, without making yourself vulnerable, without being in the same room as a composer like yourself and having that composer say, hey, well, that was good, but let's try this. So I think practice makes perfect. And, the more that I work with people and open myself up, the easier it gets to, I'm not holding on so tight. Now I'm able to let it go and say, okay, well, this might not have been the best. Let's move on to the next thing. So like I was saying earlier, it's really just about growth and evolving and just being more mature and growing into your art.
Yeah, it's tough. I ain't gonna lie, but it always comes out better though. So,
Absolutely, definitely.
all right. So I was listening to all of the tracks, and then I came across that song "Clarity." And I just love that track, man. Like, what inspired you to write that song?
So clarity. Well, it started out with the track. I'm one of those people. The music is what inspires me, the idea. The
Hmm.
music is what inspires the concept. And I I wanted to speak on this metaphor about, your clarity, your epiphany, your breakthrough, your honesty, the realness in your life, personified as a woman, as a female character. I mean, and it's just as important for men as it is for women. I think that, the realest person in your life, probably your mother, your sister, your best friend, your girlfriend. I wanted to honor that. I wanted to just show some appreciation for that role that people like that play in our lives. And then, for me, clarity is like a prayer. You're asking for that epiphany. Come on, pull up, come on through. So I wanted to convey that idea. I wanted to spell out that metaphor, but in words that people could relate to. I wanted to speak a common language. And so far, I've gotten good feedback on it. I think everybody that I've played that track for loves it. And then again, if you're not into the lyrics of it, there's always the beat to fall back on. You know what I mean? The beat is the heart, to me, of what makes a song like that dope.
Yeah, I really like the beat, man, and the metaphors you were using. That's the great thing when you have the ability to like actually use metaphors and analogies in your song, right? So someone like me, you may have meant it one way, but you kind of just put it out there with a metaphor. So I take it the way that applies to my life, right? And then the next person
Right.
will take it a different way, and it just creates great dialogue, man. So I really like that song, man. I think you got a lot of talent, man. So keep it up.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
All right, so I saw you did a little. It looks like a commercial or a video for a CDL school. And for those that don't know, CDL is like a commercial driver's license, like for truck drivers and stuff like that. Like, how did you get that opportunity?
So during the pandemic, during quarantine, the owner of that school right out here flew black owned, got the call on Facebook saying that he needed a jingle for his school. And I really didn't have much on my plate. And so I challenged myself to do something different. I said, well, I'll put together a jingle for this school, but I also want to make it a vehicle for myself. I want it to be something that I can push as a mini single, something I can push on my own to just showcase my skills. I feel like that's what I should be doing, especially if, we don't, all the normal avenues of performing and expressing ourselves aren't open. We're going to find different ways to get our material out there. So yeah, I decided to go ahead. He came to me with the beat. I love the beat. I wrote to it. Then we got together and shot a video with Dan to the L. We brought the truck out. I drove the truck. And what really made that special to me is, I asked the owner of the school at the beginning of this interaction, wouldn't it make more sense to have a male voice on this song, being that, it's truck driving school? And he said, well, you'd be surprised how many women come through and they want to take charge of their careers and their lives and get their CDL license. So that was all I needed to hear. That automatically cemented, the idea that I wanted to be the one to take this idea, this jingle, and make it into something bigger and reach more people. And so far, it's done exactly what I needed it to do. I've gotten a lot of great feedback on that. And it makes me feel good to know that I can, I have that appeal. I can reach out to women. They may not be artists like myself, but if they want to learn a new skill, get something, another certification under their belt to help them take care of their families. I love the idea of being a part of that.
So, so that's you whipping the 18 wheeler.
Yes,
I saw.
surprisingly, but and that's the thing. I feel like that's my job as an artist. It's one thing to write the song and record the song, but then when someone watches the video and they see me being driven, it doesn't have the same impact as me being in the driver's seat.
Right.
There's something about following through with that idea of independence that is really important to me. I want to set a good example.
So when I saw that, I was like, man, her confidence is at 110, man. You know what I'm saying? Like you, because that's a big old truck, man. Um,
Yeah.
do you feel like, so are you one of these artists that wants to have creative input in everything you do, like the videos and all that kind of stuff? Or you just kind of let other people handle that and you just focus on your task?
I would like to be at the point where I could say, okay, I could delegate.
Hmm.
I find it though a little difficult to give up control. I think just because of how I've operated up to now, I've been that person that writes out the storyboards for the videos. I've, had a videographer shoot everything, but then I'll bring it home and I'll edit it myself just because I like having that kind of control over my material. And that's awesome because it teaches you other aspects of the art form that you aren't necessarily familiar with, but that you need to know enough about so that when someone else is doing it for you, you understand whether they know what they're doing or not. You know what to ask for. You know what kind of changes need to be made. So I feel like I'm right on the cusp of being able to now hand my material over to someone else and say, okay, now you exercise your vision. But I did start out, kind of doing all these things for myself. And I love doing it. Like to me, it's like 360 degrees of creativity. You know what I mean? So, if I can take an idea and nurse it, from conception all the way to birth, and then, watch it take its first steps, I'm happy. So I like to have input. I like to be part of the creative process, but I'm also finding a way to step back and let the other professionals do what it is they do.
All right, if you can change anything in the music industry, what would it be?
If I could change anything about today's current music industry, it would be the types of songs that get the attention and get the airplay, right? Mm-hmm. So it seems like somewhere along the way, the positive messages, the empowering messages, got labeled as corny. Being a conscious rapper became, not an in thing to be. Having music with a message kind of kept you from being in the clubs where songs get broken and where songs really take off and get popular. So I think that I would want to change the focus from, I wouldn't call it mindless because, all art comes from somewhere, all art comes from some divine inspiration and none of it is any better or worse than any other of it. But I would like to see more positive messages in the mainstream. That the songs that get blasted and make it to number one and, take off on TikTok, I would like those to be positive representations of who we are in our culture.
All right. So when's your new music coming out? Give us an exact date and the name of the album.
Okay. So I have a new EP entitled This Is Anastasia, and it's actually dropping tomorrow, May 20th on all streaming platforms. We've got it going out to digital radio and FM radio. And I'm excited about it. This is the first project that I've dropped in about 3 years, maybe 4 years. So it's been a while. It's been a long time coming. I've been working on a lot of these songs for, upwards of 1.5 to 2 years. So it feels good to be at the point where I can let the world experience that music instead of just kind of listening to it myself in my own little bubble. So I'm super excited about that tomorrow, May 20th.
Nice. And so I'm a fan, man. So y'all get out there and check it out. I hope she blow up so big she can't even talk to us no more, man. You know what I'm saying?
Awesome. But I'd still talk anyway because there's nothing like being able to talk to people that remind you who you are and where you came from. You can talk to me about 2011, 2012 Anastasia, before I was even Anastasia. That means something,
All right. After you release this new music and it goes crazy everywhere, what you got up next? What's the plan?
I feel like I need to do more of this. I need to communicate more with my fans. I need to communicate more with the camera. I need to let people know who I am. And yes, I'm a real person. And yes, I've bumped my head in the past. And yes, I have these insecurities that just won't leave me alone because I'm human, just like you. And I think that is what will help make me relatable. So my whole goal this summer is making new friends, making new fans, and just earning that viewership. I need it.
All right. So what's your IG handle, Twitter, website? Where can people get a hold of you at?
Yes. So everything is under Anastasia Hera, which I might not have mentioned that, but that's my artist name. It's also my given name. It's what appears on my birth certificate. So that's cool. So it's Anastasia Hera. Instagram is a great way to get in touch with me. On Twitter, it's Anastasia_Hera. Go to my website, anastasiahera.com, and then from there you can get to everything else. So on all platforms, Anastasia Hera. I love making new connections. I love new friends. I love new fans. I hope people will reach out and want to collab or work or talk about some sponsorship or endorsements. You know, what I've really found lately is that people with clothing lines, you know, hit me up and say, hey, will you wear my shirt and make a cute little video? And I love doing that, you know, and I'm not charging anything for doing that because I feel like we all need to be helping each other. So I'm at that point in my career where I'm able to give back just by doing what I do and being an artist and doing my everyday thing. And I really love it.
All right, Anastasia Hera, everybody. We appreciate you stopping by and sharing your space with us, okay?
Yes, thanks for having me. I'd love to come back anytime.
All right, see you next time.
All right.